I'm good. Hi guys, welcome to Yard Talk. Bryn.
Maddie.
Today we are going to talk a little bit about trauma and grief. Maddie is going to share a little bit about her story and journey throughout the past couple years. And I'm just going to hand it over to her and I'm going to kind of pop in here and there. So go ahead, Mad.
Okay, one thing before we get started that I wanted to talk about is this booklet that I am trying to get together for people who are in active addiction and going into recovery. So it's going to be like kind of like little booklets that you can work through to be able to deal with certain scenarios, situations as you are facing triggers or trauma or whatever. Yeah, it's just kind of like quotes or like answer as like certain situations, like red flags and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited to share with you guys a little bit about that because honestly, it's been a work in progress for me for quite some time. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think it'll be something that we will actually end up providing people with by request. We'll have links for them or just reach out via Instagram message or whatever, and we can send the documents over to you.
Yeah. So one thing that I've always really wanted to talk about, I always wanted to start a book, and me writing is not my vibe at all. So one thing that I wanted to bring to light was working through grief with a loved one. I lost my boyfriend of 3 years to a car accident in 2019, and it was a roller coaster to say the least.
Mhm.
A lot of emotions surfaced. I was a complete wreck. It took me a very long time to come to the realization of even accepting the loss of him. Um, so I would say the night of his passing, I was laying in bed. I fell asleep really early. I had this disgusting feeling in my stomach. It was probably like I went for a drive with one of my friends. The weirdest thing ever is we drove down the exact same road he got to his car accident. And I just remember looking at my friend and I'm like, "Hey, I have this gross feeling. Like I can't shake this. Like you need to drop me off." And she was like, "Okay, whatever." So I went home and my friend was having a few people over, they were drinking, whatever. I'm like, "No, I'm going to bed." So then I went to bed and my friend ended up just sleeping in my bed with me that night. Weird too, but whatever. And so I kept getting these phone calls and I didn't know who the number was and I just kept ignoring it and I went back to sleep. And then my friend started getting these phone calls from the same person. So she answered it and they're like, "Is Maddie there?" And she like hands over the phone and I'm like half sleeping when I open. I'm like, "Hello?" And then they told me the news, and I just remember I was just in awe. Like, I did not know how to react. I was like, "Hey, can I call you back when I process this?" It was like 4 in the morning, and I just remember I got off the phone and I immediately texted my mom. And my mom woke up, what are the odds? And she was like, "What? No, you're lying." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I don't think anyways. Like, just got this call." And it was just from then on, like, I remember I was lying in bed and I was shaking. I didn't know what to do. And, like, don't get me wrong, I've experienced loss many of times in my life before that, like, but that one just felt so different and maybe just because of how emotionally connected and physically connected I was to him. Like, I lost my grandma when I was 9 years old. I lost my grandpa when I was 12. I lost 6 friends when I was 13, like, all at once, and it was just like, this one just felt different, and it's may like I said, maybe the emotional, physical, like, connection I had with them. And so from there on, I was like, "Hey, no, I need to do something." Like, my mom became very worried about me, like, mentally. I was ignoring people. I was laying in bed all day long, like, I did not know what to do. And which then my mom made me move out of, because I was living with my friend at the time. She made me move out of there. She's like, "You're coming home." I like, so I moved home, and I really turned to the spiritual side of things because I wanted to keep that connection. And that's where Reiki and mediums and all that kind of came into perspective. And it was a work in progress. Let me say that. And it still is some days. Like, I had, like, September is a big month for me. His birthday is on the 12th. Our anniversary was on the 13th. And it's just a lot of things resurface, I guess, within that time. And that's the biggest thing, is time frames for me. Like, for anything, like, I find that certain days I can reflect back on when I'm feeling down, and I'm like, okay, that's why. Like, this happened on this day or whatever.
Yeah.
Same with May. He passed away in May. The May long weekend, I used to love. I used to go out, drink, party, whatever, typical May long before summer, and now I can't because he passed away on May long weekend. So it's just not the same for me anymore. And it's just still
Hmm.
trying to get through that. Feel the breakthrough.
Yeah.
Um, One of, like, the biggest, I wouldn't say like something that scared me. It was almost like, I don't even know how to describe the feeling, but like, I want to say it was the day he passed or the day after. And I was walking out of my room, and to the left was a laundry room. And typically that door was closed. That door was wide open. And my friend was standing like directly down the hallway by the front door. And I, like, came out of my room, I looked to the side, and it was literally just from his shoulders up that I saw, and it was, like, fresh after he passed away, and I immediately screamed, I ran to the front door, I dropped to my knees, and my friend was like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, "Get me out of this house. Like, I am terrified. Get me out of here." And, like, now that I look back on it, I'm like, "He was just saying hi, whatever." But at that time, like, I was, like, so in denial, like, he is not gone, he's still here, like, what is happening right now? And
Mhm.
it scared me. Like,
Yeah.
I was so scared. And, like,
Hmm.
little things after that, it was just like, in that house, I just, like, couldn't do it anymore because, like, I was still trying to grieve through it, and,
Yeah.
like, he was just kept showing me signs, like, "I'm here, and I'm not
Mhm.
leaving."
Yeah.
And it was, like, too much.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah. No, I have a little bit of experience with that as well. Like when my stepmom passed away, there was definitely some spiritual things that happened afterwards that, like that day of her passing, and it's like it's scary at the time, but when you reflect on it, it's comforting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Now I look back and I'm like, "Okay," like, I'm thankful
Yeah.
for that moment, but in
Yeah.
the moment, I was like, "Hey, you can go now."
Yeah.
But I do strongly believe that all people who pass, like, their body is gone, but their spirit is alive. Like,
Her spirit lives on forever.
always
Yeah.
you can always ask your angels to, like, guide you and help you, and that's one thing that I now cherish. Like, I always ask. During tough days, I'm like, "Hey, no, help me,
Yeah.
me, send help." Um, what was I think, the next hardest thing was, like, talking at his funeral in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I had all his friends beside me, but in a sense, it was like I was thankful to be their support,
Mhm.
but they, like, leaned on me for it, and it was hard. It was really hard because I was a wreck, and I know they were too, but it was like I needed to be strong for that 10 days, because it was 10 days after he passed that his funeral was, and I needed to be as strong as I could for those 10 days so that I
Yeah.
could help everyone through it, and then that's when I started grieving.
Yeah.
It's tough, and I think
Yeah. Grief is a very long process. It's I mean, I feel like your grieving process doesn't actually ever truly end personally. Like you just the journey of it just changes over time. Like obviously you have your initial grieving period and then you kind of go through that honeymoon phase. But then like, the date, like the anniversary dates come up and the birthdays and whatever. And it's still you still grieve those emotions every single year. And it's like learning positive ways to grieve those emotions, learning the coping mechanisms and like fighting the trauma response too. Like I know that like the first year after my stepmom passed away, it was a trigger and it was like a complete like trauma response meltdown, like completely lost sense sorry lost my sense of rationality like completely. I couldn't think straight, like nothing, but it was like learning how to cope with those emotions. And like that's one of the things that I think we're going to try and add into this book is like coping mechanisms for like all sorts of different things, trauma responses, grief, and then we'll get into like more recovery stuff, addictions, mental health, you name it. Like we'll just have like worksheets for honestly anything and everything. And if you guys have something specific that you can think of that you need help to work through, talk to us. Let us know how we can help you. We'll do the research. We'll put something together for you.
I think speaking of like coping mechanisms and all that, like after he passed away, I turned to alcohol. I drank, I smoked weed
Mm.
all the time. I numbed my pain.
Yeah.
I gained like 30, 40 pounds. People were like, holy, like I've always been like fairly small, but they like my face was getting chubby and they're like, oh, like comments were made to my mom, comments were made to me. And I'm like, hey, give your freaking head a shake. Like,
Yeah.
give your head a shake. It was May when he passed, and in December, I was getting comments. I drank my sorrows away through summer. Like,
Yeah.
I was drinking every day.
Yeah. Well, and
Uh,
that's part of grief for sure.
yeah.
100%.
And like, I just
Absolutely.
didn't know. I was like, whatever. Like, I'll just try and have as much fun as I can. But for the longest time, I also didn't want to go out in public. I didn't want to see people because I didn't want the questions. I didn't want to, like, that, oh, how are you doing? Like, that, no. Like, I
Because like
remember,
how do you even answer that question? Like people should know. Like
yeah.
I mean we're all guilty of it. We've all been there. It's like, something shitty happens and you're like, "Oh, how are you doing?" Well, that person's shitty. So like, you know.
I went to this rodeo probably like a month after he passed, and I just remember like I felt like everyone was staring at me.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, "Hey," I looked at my friend and I was like, "I can't do this." And then of
Yeah.
course we saw someone, they're like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I'm like,
Awful. Leave me alone.
that is the worst question you could ask someone right now, but whatever. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I drank a lot, and then once people started noticing that and commenting on that, then I stopped drinking, and then people questioned me on that. Like I literally stopped drinking for like 7 months, and I started going to the gym, and I started working on myself, and people are like, "Oh, why aren't you drinking? Like you're no fun, blah 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 blah." Blah." And I'm like, "Well, I'm trying to deal with my emotions and focus on me." But,
Hmm.
like, nobody really, like, realized that. They were more so like, "Come out and have fun," and I'm like, "Let's normalize not drinking when you go out." Is that hard? Probably,
No.
and all your friends are drinking, but, like, to normalize that, like, I don't know, I could stop drinking for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I I know I've been through all sorts of emotions like that. I used to cope with alcohol as well, and now it just doesn't really do a whole lot for me. Like obviously I still have the occasional drink here and there, but um I had to learn to put up some boundaries with the amount, the accessibility,
Mhm.
stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's for sure, like, it's really hard, and then I think it took me probably about 2 years to finally stop smoking weed, and now I can't even smoke weed.
Hmm.
Like, it gives me anxiety. That's
Yeah.
another thing, like, I had to take these, like, natural anxiety pills to, like, go to the bar if I, like, because 'cause we'd always go out for college night, and I wouldn't drink, I'd just drive them out there because it was about 30 minutes from my hometown, and I would have to take something in order to even go out in public because I just, like felt like all eyes were on me, and I
Mhm.
hate that so much because like,
Mhm.
it was where he went to college, so everyone knew me with him and, like, 2 and 2 together, and it was just like but I'm really thankful that I was able to be, like, really close with all his guy friends and, like, we were able to, like, support each other through it in a sense, and, like, I still talk to them every now and then, and yeah, it's really tough, honestly. I would say I'm a lot better with it now just because like, I'm more spiritually connected to him, but, like,
Mhm. Well,
I
and,
s
like, it was you said 2019, right? So it's only been 4 years, like, that's really not very long.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and we were young, like, he was 15 when we started dating, and I was 16 and, um or no, I was just turning 17, and when he passed away, I just was about to turn 20.
yeah.
So, to be able to I don't know, it's just to find the coping mechanisms was the biggest thing for me, like,
Mhm.
journaling was one thing, like, I wrote papers and I burnt them and I did this and I whatever, but, like, the one thing that really helped me was shadow work, which is kinda what you were talking about, like, with going through different coping mechanisms, like self-love, like, it wasn't just about me and him, it was more so about how am I gonna deal with that emotion or the connection with him. Shadow work, you can literally search up online and be like, "Shadow work self-love prompts." They're very in-depth. They like, I cried a lot.
Mhm.
Like, you have to it's not just, "I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna talk to a friend while I do it." No, you're sitting there alone, you're gonna
Yeah.
dive deep into your emotions, and you're gonna figure that out. I found that helped me so much to be able to actually face my emotions and, like, go through that by myself rather
Yeah.
than have somebody else like, my mom tried sending me to counseling, like, within the week of him passing away, and I remember this counselor was, like, trying to connect with me by telling me that his friend shot himself in the head, and I was like, "I'm out. I'm done. See you never. Like,
What?
I'm done." Like, that's how you're gonna relate to me, like, I completely understand, but not right now. Like, maybe 10 sessions in, you can talk to me about that, but, like, right now, when my boyfriend just passed away, you're gonna tell me that? Like, I was in
That's
awe. I was like, "I'm never seeing a counselor ever again."
no shit, I don't blame you.
Like, in high school, I had a really good counselor, and, like, I remember after my 6 friends passed away, they pulled all their friends in, and, like, they immediately pulled me in on the first day of class, and I was like, "Why are they pulling me in?" And whatever. She was awesome. She talked to me, like, was really good, but,
Yeah.
like, you don't tell somebody that when they're trying to grieve.
No. And especially from a professional standpoint too, that was extremely inappropriate.
And the fact he, like, charges, like, 200 and, like, some dollars an hour.
Oh my hell.
Yeah. When my mom told me that, I was like, "You just wasted so much money." I'm sorry I walked out, but I'm not going
Yeah,
back, like,
no.
I will take any other approach but that. And I went
Yeah,
to Reiki, and she, like, does, like, Reiki mixed with mediumship, and it was, like, awesome, like, those are the connections that I need. And I remember, like, some of the things she'd say were like, "Holy fuck, that's him," or, like, something about me, like, "Oh, he's saying this," and I'm like, "That's what I need to hear." Like, the reassurance of him, like, knowing that he's near me, I'm like, I need that spiritual connection
mhm.
rather than, like, "Okay, how are we gonna work through our emotions?" I need to know that he's still there to, like, validate me of,
Yeah.
like, to be able to work through it. But I'm just
Mhm.
also thankful that, like, his family was there because that was the toughest thing, like, I thought I completely disconnected. I thought they were gonna think that I was, like, the worst person ever for, like, trying to move on. Like, I was young, and I obviously want a family, and I want a significant other to, like, move forward in life with, but that was the biggest thing that I held back on was, like, almost, like, guilt of how they would feel.
Yeah.
But, like, his mom was very supportive from day one, but I almost, like, shunned that out because I was scared of getting a reaction still. And like
Mhm.
I'm still really close with their family. Like I talk to his brother and his sister quite often, more so his sister, and his mom I'll message every once in a while. I still go over there. I haven't been over there in a while, but like they still think of me and see me
Mm,
in their
absolutely.
family, and his
Yeah.
grandparents as well. Like
Yeah.
it's really supportive, and I'm really thankful for that because when times get tough, like I know I have them.
To lean on for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
and to be involved, and yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing is to have like a good support system within like
Yeah.
and it also leads into substances. Like when he passed away 10 days later, or 9 days later, his dad overdosed. Like he he was supposed to come for the funeral and he was going to come 2 or 3 days before. He canceled his flight. He stayed out in BC where he was staying at, and we rebooked him the flight the day before the funeral, and like the night going into his flight he overdosed and we got a call. And I remember his mom, like I was in the kitchen and his mom was sitting on the couch and she got up and she was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like she was like in awe. I immediately knew. I was like, "No."
Was he a user previous to that?
Yeah.
Right. But then just the grief of losing somebody also kicks
Yeah.
in your substance use into like overdrive
Yeah.
because it's they're just coping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I immediately knew, and I remember his sister was like looking around like, "What is going on?" And I'm like I don't know. Like something in me, I'm like, I just knew.
Mm.
And then she got off the phone and she was like pacing back and forth, and I was like, yeah, like, did that
Like what's
happen?"
going on?
She's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, fuck. And I just remember like his brother went into the complete like disconnect, like numb to the world, like blackout almost. And like I do not like I do the same one, like be the exact same way. Like it you just dealt with your brother, and now you have to not only grieve your brother but grieve your dad within like not even a month.
Yeah.
Like the funeral isn't even over yet, and then you have another, like it's just like one thing after another, and I was like, is this ever gonna end?
Yeah.
Like it was a lot. And that's one thing I do want to I want to bring his sister in so she can talk about not only grieving her brother but her dad as well, and like what that looked like with
The substance use and stuff
substance use and stuff.
for sure.
Because in my perspective, loving somebody who is in active addiction is hard.
Yeah.
It is more common nowadays. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm getting older and like, but like all my friends growing up were into substances.
Mhm.
Watching them go from who they were to who they are now,
Yeah.
it's tough.
Yeah.
Because then like, I have lots of friends who still lean on me for support, and I'm like, where is that healthy boundary?
Mhm.
I'm still trying to find that. Like,
Yeah.
it's tough
Yeah.
to be able to. You obviously want to be there for them and support them and do all that, but in another sense, it's like if you keep putting in all this effort with no effort in return, they need to start trying, and you
Mhm.
can't be their backbone to do absolutely
Yeah.
everything for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Like
takes
there comes a point where you have to take care of yourself
yeah,
before I mean you can't take care of other people before yourself. We've all made that mistake where we take care of others before we take care of ourselves. And like one of the
same.
biggest Maddie and I focus on and we tell ourselves like every single day is you can't love somebody else until you can truly love yourself.
And I keep preaching that, and people are like, "Oh, shame on you," and I'm like, "No, it's true though.
It
Like,
is
it
true.
really is true. Like,
Yeah.
you cannot love somebody else before you love yourself.
Yeah.
Because how are you to put all into somebody else if you don't even care about your own physical being.
Yeah. Or your mental well-being, whatever.
And
Yeah.
it also turns back to, I think, like being able, like, you don't, because if you don't love yourself, then you look for that reassurance within lots of things. Like, you need to be confident within your own body to be able to put that love out there. And if you are not loving yourself, to be able to reassure yourself that everything's going to be okay.
Mhm.
I don't know, like it's really tough.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think to be able to love yourself is number one within everything, substance use, your mental health, relationships. Like, I had to learn to love myself.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
we all have years, and I
lost
mean, if you're
myself.
people still might be in that journey of, like, finding themselves, learning how to feel confident, learning how to love themselves, whatever, and we will definitely post up some resources on some different things that you can do to achieve that.
Yeah. Um, Grief is hard, but find your resources. Like,
Yeah.
I remember when working at the shelter, like, I really connected with this one guy who opened up to me and told me about his passing of his girlfriend who got hit by a train. He literally watched her, and I immediately, like, trauma came back for me. And I'm like, I know exactly how you feel. Like, my throat's kind of closing right now thinking about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then he left to go to her funeral, and I haven't seen him since. And like, all I want to do is to be able to help him and show him how you can get through it
Yeah.
because it's tough.
Mhm.
But to know somebody who can relate to you at a certain standpoint and show you those resources is huge. Finding
Yeah.
a good support system within your grief so you don't lose yourself,
Yeah.
because you should be finding yourself.
Mhm.
As hard as it is, because you get, like I said, I drank a lot. I laid in bed all the time.
Yeah.
Now I think my good support is my dog.
Hey, service animals do a lot for people. Emotional
Yeah,
support dogs, whatever.
yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get him
Yeah.
prescribed to me so that he
Yeah.
can be my support dog.
Absolutely.
'Cause,
I
like,
support that.
apparently, you can go to the doctor, they can
Yeah.
prescribe you your dog, and you can take
Literally.
medicine, and that's
Yeah.
what I wanna do.
You should. He'll
I
be our
know.
mascot. We'll
Yeah.
introduce him today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, s but, yeah, I think my dog, if I didn't have my dog, I think I'd be an emotional wreck all the time.
Yeah, fair enough.
'Cause I find that when I'm struggling, all I do, I just grab him and I cuddle him. As much
Yeah.
as he hates it sometimes, I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that's also where my independence came in, was like, I can just go with him and he's like my little human.
Yeah, for sure.
I go everywhere with him.
Yeah.
And if I don't go anywhere with him, people ask me where he is. Like, that's how much he comes with
He's
me.
like
I'll take him to the
a
grocery
package.
store.
Yeah, he's part of you. You come as a package deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all that. It's pretty emotional to talk about.
Yeah.
Uh, like we said, we've got some, workbooks and resources and stuff coming. If you need something specific, if you have something that you need help with, please reach out and we will try and help you and connect you with some more professional resources as well.
Yeah, and I will hopefully this week put together at least one of the booklets so that we can share it. Check out our links in the bio there. There are resources from, like, facts that we've found. I've also put a few documentaries in there. I'm gonna be adding another one today. Um, I'll be adding a few today. And then on the first page, it's all the facts and statistics and documentaries. And then the second page is like the links to our podcast. So
Yeah.
feel free to look in there, kind of explore. And then feel free to message us on Instagram if you have any other
Thoughts,
topics,
questions,
or
whatever. Yeah.
if you want to join us on a future podcast, feel free to share your story, and we are more than happy to have you on.
Mhm.
We're so excited.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Have a good day.
Next week.